Holy Unity. If you aren't aware, a change happened on September 13th that was readily responded and revolted by the wide expanse of Unity-based indie developers. A change so greedy that I'm not sure Mr. Krabs would even have pulled the trigger, considering he at least cares mildly about the customer's satisfaction. A move that cannot be made by anyone except a greedy pig descended from the innermost pits of EA Games headquarters, John Rich Asshole. A man so villainous his pockets are most likely now lined with the finest silk, depicting the multitude of complaints that rolled in from some of the most prominent indie developers out there. Though you may be wondering, why is he so villainous? I'll explain. First, here's a look into his philosophy.
The second thing, and this is a point that I think might be lost on many, is a big and substantial portion of digital revenues are microtransactions. When you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're really not very price sensitive at that point in time. And for what it's worth, the cogs on the clip really low. And so essentially what ends up happening, and the reason the play first, pay later model works so nicely, is the consumer gets engaged in a property. They might spend 10, 20, 30, 50 hours on the game. And then when they're deep into the game, they're well invested in it. We're not gouging, but we're charging. And at that point in time, the commitment can be pretty high. As a personal anecdote, I spent about $5,000 calendar year to date on doing just this thing, this type of thing on our products and others. I can readily attest to how well it works. But it's a great model, and I think it represents a substantially better future for the industry.
This is audio from a shareholder meeting Rich Asshole had back in 2011 when he was still with EA. Now, look at Madden. Look at the cost of packs, the strategies by which price points are staggered, that invasive nature of this diluted pathology that has stripped the love of football from the only football game that exists. And if that weren't enough, in an interview conducted in 2022 by Pocket Gamer, Rich Asshole was quoted saying some absolute tripe. I've been in the gaming industry longer than most anybody, getting to the gray hair and all that. It used to be the case that developers would throw their game over the wall to the publicist and sales force with literally no interaction beforehand. That model is baked into the philosophy of a lot of art forms and medium, and it's one I am deeply respectful of. I know their dedication and care. I've seen some great games fail because they tuned their compulsion loop to 2 minutes when it should have been an hour. Sometimes you wouldn't even notice the product difference between a massive success and tremendous fail. But for this tuning and what it does to the attrition rate, there isn't a developer on the planet that wouldn't want that knowledge. Seemingly, this man claims to know what gamers want with the determinate mindset that video games should focus more on long, drawn-out gameplay loops instead of rewarding the player profusely for their time, which is well in line with what he stated in 2011. The idea of pinning the player against a figurative wall, saying, "Weren't you having fun? You don't want it to stop, right? Give us a little more money and we'll make you happy." Mind my anger, but this is psychological. This is the exact mindset in what I mentioned in my Armored Core 6 video. Gaming isn't dead, but there are awful, terrible, wicked companies that exist at the forefront of their industry, backed by devoted fans willing to fork over whatever cash they have to get just a meager taste of what a game should be. But this isn't entirely about Rich Asshole's perverted business savvy thinking, or even the sexual misconduct charge that was laid against him in 2019 by a fired HR person, which was handled outside of court through arbitration and swept under a rug. Go figure. No, this is about his mishandling of Unity, a cherished instrument of game development that has created some of the most inventive and passionate gaming projects to grace our beloved pastime. Changes are being made to Unity's pricing plans, shoving away the standard annual fee and now adding an installation fee per user, including separate costs per download on unique platforms, with an even more diluted mindset of grandeur and poise by stating Unity games on Game Pass will not be charged installation fees, but instead Microsoft will be expected to front the bill. Now, for the more established indie games, this might not hit as hard, But for a change like this to occur smoothly, especially for a platform that's dubbed as easily accessible for learning individuals, people who don't have proven names and are using Unity to pursue their passion, their opportunity for success is severely stunted. And most importantly, trust is broken. In a blog post shared by Gary Newman, the fellow behind Gary's Mod, he shared that Unity did not warn or consult them about the coming changes, expressing shock and also illuminating another facet of this change. It's retroactive. This means that it isn't only going to impact sales of games with Unity once the change is made effective, but incurring cost over all sales even prior. This additional level of monetization applies pressure on the developers looking to cater to the user experience by adding more overhead to that simple facet of wanting to make us happy. Developers like Megacrit Games were very vocal about their opposition, with even Devolver, a publisher, expressing dissidence. Understand this, Rich Asshole sees it this way. They're the most beautiful and pure, brilliant people. They're also some of the biggest fucking idiots. Sorry for no censor, it's not my words after all. But these changes, while again not hitting the bottom line of more established titles, severely inhibits a lot of aspiring creators from pursuing what was once the most accessible developer kit for many, many years. Games like Hollow Knight, Subnautica, Pokemon Go, Rust, Ori, Pillars of Eternity, and Cuphead would not exist without it. Well, maybe they still would. Something would fill that void. As I'd like to state to Rich Asshole, that's the nature of business and competition. The boisterous washing away, turning into shells of what they once were, and being succeeded by newer ideas. Ubisoft, a prime example. The lowering counts of PC players on COD. Hell, I haven't heard shit about Battlefield in forever. Unfortunately, Unity's shown they're not eternal. So I found some alternatives. If you are an aspiring game developer and want something open source or cheap to work with, I can't particularly attest to their quality, but here are some alternatives. Source 2, a free engine developed by Valve, the fellas behind Steam, that boasts cross-platform capabilities for equal use in 2D and 3D games. You've got Stride 3D, an open source C# game engine that again allows development of 2D and 3D cross-platform games. Or Godot, another open source game engine for cross-platform 2D and 3D games. Even Unreal Engine exists, and I'm sure many more. If it speaks anything to you as a potential developer or even just a consumer of games, I have one final quote for you from a fellow Unity exec, Mark Whitten. To double down on John's point, Unity has democratized creation. Nowadays, if I were to tell you the next Breakaway title is going to be made by two guys sitting in a flat in the Philippines, you wouldn't blink twice. There is a beauty in tools that let people find out that this is how they want to make their livelihood, and our responsibility is to continue that democratization. No bullshit, that is a beautiful statement, and it does speak volumes on Unity's history and what they mean to the world of gaming. But here we are. Thanks for watching. God damn it, I was working on a different project, but this was just an insane thing that I woke up to and read, and you know me, potentially from the last video or other videos, or you can just read my bio, but I love creativity. I want more games, I want you to play more games, I want us to have more of these worlds accessible to us, and a change like this literally only exists to strip away that potential. Why? Well, Unity stocks are down. Cue the world's smallest violin. They're panicking, and CEO Rich Asshole is certainly clamoring to squeeze out whatever he can, as this move seems to more so target mobile games for their microtransaction-based revenues and to essentially butt the currently existing and hopeful PC games that only comprise 23% of their revenue. What happens from here? I have no idea. But a mass exodus may be at its forefront, barring Unity gives in, but even then, the trust is broken. Well, that's all. Have a good day, night, or evening. I do want you to at least be aware, the next video that I will release, as long as more insane news doesn't drop, is part 7 of my journey into Dark Souls 3. Yes, it's time to end it. I rushed to get this video out, striking while the iron's hot, you know, but my aim was to have that next one out by Friday or Saturday. It may take just a bit longer, but I won't hold it till next Friday at least. Also, if you have no clue what the my journey is, check out the playlist. It won't cover only Dark Souls 3 over time, that's just where I am right now, but it's just a bit of storytelling. Bye bye.